Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. The Toronto Blue Jays just pulled off a shocking trade for Jesus Sanchez, and if you thought Ross Atkins was done making moves, think again. A name just surfaced in the rumor mill that makes so much sense it's almost too perfect, and Blue Jays fans who remember this player are going to lose their minds when they hear what's brewing. We're talking about a potential reunion with a former fan favorite, a left-handed power bat who could solve the exact roster puzzle the Sanchez trade just created, and a move that would give this lineup the kind of balance and depth it desperately needs heading into the season. Randal Grichuk, the former Blue Jay who absolutely crushed left-handed pitching during his time in Toronto, is still sitting in free agency. And folks, the timing couldn't be more perfect. Let me break down why this potential reunion is generating serious buzz right now and why it might be the missing piece that turns this outfield from a question mark into a legitimate strength. First, let's set the stage for why this conversation is even happening, because the Jesus Sanchez trade created a very specific roster construction problem that needs solving. The Blue Jays acquired Sanchez from the Houston Astros in exchange for Joey Loperfido, and on paper it looked like a solid move to address outfield depth after Anthony Santander's devastating injury. But when you dig into the details and look at how the pieces actually fit together, you realize there's a glaring hole that still needs to be filled. Jesus Sanchez is an absolute monster against right-handed pitching. We're talking career numbers that put him in elite company when facing righties. But against left-handed pitching, he's essentially unplayable with a 41 WRC+. That's not just bad, that's automatic out territory. So the Blue Jays went out and got themselves an everyday left fielder who can only play against half the pitchers in baseball. That creates an obvious need. They need someone who can step in against left-handed starters and provide legitimate offensive production. And that's where Randal Grichuk enters the conversation, because his entire career has been defined by absolutely destroying southpaws. This isn't some marginal platoon advantage we're talking about. Grichuk has historically been one of the best right-handed hitters against left-handed pitching in all of baseball. Let me paint you a picture of what Randal Grichuk brings to the table, because his numbers against lefties are genuinely impressive. Just 2 years ago, Grichuk posted a 139 WRC+, which means he was 39% better than league average. That's legitimately elite production. Yes. Last year was rough for him with the Kansas City Royals. He struggled to a .674 OPS, and on the surface it looked like maybe his career was heading in the wrong direction. But here's where it gets interesting. When you dive into his advanced metrics, the underlying numbers tell a completely different story. Grichuk set a new career best in both average exit velocity and maximum exit velocity last year. That means the ball was coming off his bat harder than ever before, which is exactly the kind of raw tool that Dave Hopkins, the Blue Jays hitting coach, loves to work with. Hopkins has built his entire reputation on taking players with elite bat speed and exit velocity and helping them unlock consistent production. If you give Hopkins a player who hits the ball hard but isn't getting results, he can usually figure out what adjustments need to be made to turn those hard hit balls into actual hits and runs. And here's the beautiful part about potentially bringing Grichuk back to Toronto. He wouldn't be asked to do what Kansas City was asking him to do. The Royals were playing him against both left and right-handed pitching, forcing him into matchups where he's historically struggled. The Blue Jays would use him exclusively against lefties, playing to his absolute strength and maximizing his value. That's smart roster construction. That's how you get the most out of a platoon player. Think about how this outfield would actually function with both Sanchez and Grichuk in the fold. Against right-handed starting pitchers, which is the majority of matchups you're going to face over a season, Jesus Sanchez starts in left field and provides that power bat Ross Atkins has been raving about. Against left-handed starters, Randal Grichuk slides into left field and gives you proven production from a guy who's been crushing southpaws his entire career. That's a legitimate platoon that maximizes the strengths of both players while completely hiding their weaknesses. But wait, I can already hear some of you saying, what about David Schneider? Isn't he supposed to be the guy who hits against lefties? Well, here's the uncomfortable truth that the numbers reveal. David Schneider actually hit significantly better against right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching last year. Now, some of that is because the Blue Jays were smart about sheltering him in favorable matchups. They used advanced analytics to avoid putting him in situations where he was likely to fail. But even accounting for that, Schneider's splits don't scream lefty masher the way Grichuk's do. And look, Schneider is a valuable piece. He can play multiple outfield positions, he can spell guys at second base if needed, and he provides quality depth that every contending team needs over a 162-game season. But if you're trying to build the most dangerous lineup possible, if you're trying to maximize your offensive potential in every single game, pairing Sanchez with Grichuk makes way more sense than relying on Schneider to be your primary answer against left-handed starters. Let's talk about the financial side of this for a second, because one of the best parts about potentially signing Grichuk is that he's not going to break the bank. This isn't going to be some massive multi-year deal that hamstrings the payroll. Grichuk is a veteran at this stage of his career coming off a down year. He's going to sign a one-year prove-it deal somewhere, probably for a relatively modest salary. For the Blue Jays, that's a low-risk, high-reward proposition. If it works out and Grichuk rediscovers his form against lefties, you've got yourself an incredibly valuable platoon bat for basically nothing. If it doesn't work out, you cut ties after one season with minimal financial impact. And there's another element to this that shouldn't be overlooked. Randal Grichuk is a former Blue Jay. He knows the organization, he knows the city, he has relationships with people in the front office and coaching staff. There's familiarity there, and in baseball, familiarity can be valuable. Players who've been in an organization before often have an easier time readjusting when they come back. They know what's expected of them, they understand the team culture, and they can hit the ground running without needing time to acclimate. Now let's address the elephant in the room, which is Nathan Lukes and how he fits into all of this. An Astros reporter put it perfectly when he noted that it's hard to imagine how Jesus Sanchez and Nathan Lukes can coexist the way the team is currently constructed. Both are left-handed hitters who struggle against left-handed pitching. If you're running out Sanchez against righties and Lukes is also in the lineup somewhere, what do you do when a lefty comes into the game in a high-leverage situation? You're stuck with multiple hitters in disadvantageous matchups. But if you add Grichuk to the mix and move Lukes for a bullpen arm or some other organizational need, suddenly everything clicks into place. Your outfield construction makes sense. You have designated roles for specific players that maximize their strengths. You have the flexibility to match up favorably regardless of who's on the mound. That's how championship-caliber rosters are built. Mitch Bannon, one of the most plugged-in Blue Jays insiders, made an interesting point about roster flexibility that's worth considering. He noted that Addison Barger and Otani Okamoto can slide around to different positions, which creates some interesting lineup possibilities. If both Lukes and Sanchez are really firing at the same time, there are ways to get both of them in the lineup against right-handed pitching by moving other pieces around. That's true, and roster flexibility is always valuable. But here's my counter-argument to that. You don't pay Otani Okamoto the money the Blue Jays are paying him to sit on the bench multiple times a week. He's supposed to be an everyday player who provides value both offensively and defensively. If you're constantly trying to juggle the lineup to accommodate multiple players who have the same platoon split, you're creating unnecessary complications. It's much cleaner and more effective to have designated platoon partners who have opposite splits and let everyone else play their natural positions every day. And let's talk about Jesus Sanchez for a minute, because Ross Atkins could not have been more clear about how he views this player. Atkins described Sanchez as one of their better options against right-handed pitching on a very regular basis. He talked about Sanchez's power being as good as anybody in baseball. He emphasized that they don't want to limit him in any way because he's a very good defender and a unique athlete. Those comments tell you everything you need to know. Sanchez is going to play every single day against righties. That's not negotiable. That's the plan. So if Sanchez is locked into left field against righties, you absolutely need a quality option against lefties to complete the platoon. And Randal Grichuk fits that description better than any other realistic option currently available in free agency. Some people have been throwing around Nick Castellanos' name, but Grichuk is a more reliable fit and more aligned with what the Blue Jays typically look for in players. He's a former teammate, he fits the budget, and his splits are crystal clear. The projections for Jesus Sanchez next season are intriguing. He's expected to hit 15 to 20 home runs with a 710 OPS and provide nearly 2 wins above replacement. And here's a fun fact that should get Blue Jays fans excited. Sanchez hit a 496-foot home run last year. That's legitimate tape measure power. When he connects, the ball absolutely explodes off his bat. Now imagine pairing that right-handed power with Grichuk's left-handed thump against southpaws. You're creating a situation where opposing managers can't exploit a weakness in your lineup based on pitcher-handedness. The advanced metrics on Sanchez are also incredibly encouraging. He's in the 100th percentile for bat speed, which is elite company. If Dave Hopkins can work with him on approach and pitch selection, the ceiling is immense. And if you're going to invest in trying to unlock Sanchez's potential, why not also bring in Grichuk to complement him perfectly? It's a package deal that makes the entire investment more valuable. Spring training is already underway, which means any moves that are going to happen need to happen soon. The Blue Jays can't afford to drag their feet on this. If they want Randal Grichuk, they need to act now before another team swoops in and signs him. The good news is that Grichuk is still available, which suggests his market hasn't fully developed yet. That gives Ross Atkins an opportunity to make a move that improves the roster without getting into a bidding war. Here's the bottom line. The Jesus Sanchez trade created a specific need, and Randal Grichuk is the perfect player to fill that need. He crushes left-handed pitching, he's familiar with the organization, he won't cost much money, and he allows the Blue Jays to maximize Sanchez's value by platooning them effectively. This is the kind of smart, strategic roster building that championship teams do. They identify holes, find cost-effective solutions, and put players in positions to succeed. So here's what I need from you right now. Smash that like button if you want to see Randal Grichuk back in a Blue Jays uniform. Drop a comment below telling me whether you think this reunion makes sense or if there's another player you'd rather see the Blue Jays target. And make sure you hit that subscribe button because spring training is flying by, opening day is right around the corner, and you're not going to want to miss a single move as Ross Atkins puts the finishing touches on this roster. The Blue Jays are going all in, and we're covering every development as it happens. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you, and let's go Blue Jays.